nothing surprises me. We had 2 ties in 2 days. It was just that stuff doesn't happen. And yet, they've just been so scrappy and so gritty, and they've done what they have to do. And so I'm kind of enjoying the ride at this point. We're at this place. I tell them all the time, look, you got everything to gain and nothing to lose at this point. So, compete with your head on fire. Just go have fun and just, have a great time with it, because when they do that, they tend to do better anyway. And with what they've already accomplished, there's a lot of people that wouldn't have given them a chance to get where they are, and yet here we are.
Is that really what's fueling the entire team? Is screw it, like we have nothing to lose, we might as well be loose?
I would say yes in some ways, but I think the first day we were tight at regionals because probably everybody had a little PTSD from last year, and that first day we were not great, but we did enough. And then the next day, I think they loosened up quite a bit and competed like they were trying to win the thing. And so, yeah, it's yes and no. I think, that the air came out of the balloon a little bit, that we were able to advance and then advance again. And so I think now you'll see a much freer, approach to everything. And they know that they've been through it. They know that people have counted them out. They know they've been the underdogs, and they feel it. And but they've rallied around each other more than anything. It's really not about what other people think to them. I don't hear them say those things, but it is about doing it for each other, and I do hear that come out of their mouths a lot.
At any point in this season, did you believe, girls are dropping left and right with injuries and everything else? Did you think you would make it this far?
Well, it was always our intention to, and you certainly, if you stop believing, they pick up on that. And so, no, I believe in the kids we have. I tell them all, you're not here because you can't. You're here because you can. And it's if the next person up has to go, that whether they've shown the ability in practice or not. We did have some times where we had to put people in that had not particularly practiced all that well to where you would think we were comfortable putting them in the lineup, but each time we were able to do that, or someone got pushed into a situation to where they had to be ready, they stepped up. And so it's just been a great mentality. They're a special group. Regardless of any outcome from here on in, this bunch in my time coaching is as special as any.
Walk us through the moment where you learned that you had won the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind?
Well, I knew that Michigan, had at least one fall. Bugs looked at me and said, I think they had 2. The thing, I knew the rule. I've been on the other end of a tie break like that in 2010 with Oregon State, and the ironic thing about that, I'll answer your question, but is that Courtney McCool was a senior on that team, and we went to the 6th score. 3 of our 6 scores beat Oregon State. Courtney McCool missed the only ganger she missed in her entire career, and it was her senior year, and that put us out by a quarter tenth. So you talk about PTSD, in that situation too, and it was she and I on the floor again, and we're like, oh my God, are we reliving this whole thing? But all I knew is that if they had falls, we were in, if the screen was right, if we had actually tied. And I just wanted to make sure that the judges had verified the scores, and they were, and everything was done. They had 3 people over there. I know a lot of attention was given to the NCAA rep who was doing it on her phone, but we had people doing it on their computers and stuff too. And so I knew the rule. I knew there was a good chance, but the last thing I wanted to do was be premature, tell the team something that wasn't accurate. So I just stayed there until I got the official word. And when I did, probably maybe the most memorable, there's 2 memorable, really, really memorable moments in my coaching career, and that's one of them. To be able to turn around and throw my hands up in the air and to watch them erupt into tears and excitement was a moment that I'll never forget.
You think winning on a tiebreaker with that much stress, intensity, maybe gives you more momentum heading into this week?
I think so. I think with whatever we have left, you're gonna get it all. And I just think these kids, their heart's in the right place. I'm not guaranteeing any kind of outcome by any stretch of the imagination, but I am guaranteeing that they're going to give everything they've got, just like they have all year long. Anytime we have thought, or I have had the thought creep into my mind that maybe we couldn't do something, they have shown up, and so they've earned a level of trust with this coaching staff that they. Anything's possible. I told them Saturday, why not us? Why can't we go win it? And so we'll go let it all hang out, and if we can advance, then we'll do it again.
Speaking of the teams, just from your perspective, what have you seen from them? Florida, Cal?
Oh, well, they're all very good. I mean, there's not a, you get to this point, really, when you get to the regional site, everybody's good. I mean, if you looked at the NQSs this year, I don't know how deep it went, but it was somewhere near 20 teams that had NQSs of 197 or above. I don't know. That might be a record, but they were good. And Denver obviously was good at home and was able to really pour it on at the end. There's a lot to that. I told you guys probably when we were thinking about where we might end up going, you don't like going to a place where the host is a 3 seed, or in this case it was a 4 seed, but because that comfort level and that home court advantage is a real thing in our sport. And so I think they're all great. I think we've got, obviously Florida is, as I told you guys when we saw them earlier in the year, maybe the most, in terms of a list of names and a roster, the most talented team ever assembled in college gymnastics from top to bottom. I mean, they got a team full of kids that could be the anchor for anybody on any event. So they're an amazingly talented team. I know that they were very close to winning the whole thing last year, so they'll be ready to go. Certainly Cal Berkeley, we saw them earlier in the year. I don't think either team was their best that day, but I know those coaches do a great job. They're very clean. They land well. They don't give a lot away, and so I think Berkeley is probably, I would say Florida and Berkeley are probably the favorites to come out of our session, but I don't think it's by a margin that can't be overcome if we get an opening.
Does it excite you guys at all?
Yeah. I think you asked the question, I think we do kind of embrace the underdog kind of thing, and I think the team embraces that and relishes in it a little bit. You never want to go through a year where without your full boat, a full complement of athletes, but the silver lining to that, if there is one, is that they've competed a little bit with a chip on their shoulder, and that's good.
You mentioned people stepping up on that bars routine. You got Alexis getting a career high.
Yeah.
Ashley and Tori stepping up in
Yeah.
the first postseason. What do you think about the way they've grown?
I mean, it's par and parcel with what this team has done. You had Olivia Dunn in there the first day, and she wasn't her best, and she wasn't feeling great. Her shoulders were bothering her a little bit, and Cowan had been doing the job. It was just a matter of numbers for me, to where I felt like, you gotta feel like the team trusts whoever you put in. Because that can dictate people behind them in the lineup and how they perform. So she had done a great job, and she was really steady on both days in warm-ups and leading into that meet, and so it felt like it was a great opportunity for her, and she stepped up to the plate. She's a competitor. She's a JO national champion on bars. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, she's a walk-on, but she's got some ability, and so I was proud of her. And Tori being able to do what she did after not competing at all last year has been a real consistent force for us in there. But the glue that holds this whole thing together, as you guys already know, is that calming force at the back, and that's Haley. Because you see what happens with other teams. There are other teams in this country who have lost kids the caliber of Akaya Johnson like we did, and they folded their tent and are gone. I'm not naming names, but that's the kind of stuff that goes on. Sometimes there's that one person that without them, there's like an aura that just goes away or something. And we've had the kind of character on this team where we lose a Kaya Johnson and Haley Bryant steps up and fills that void. Or if we lose Haley, you would have Aaliyah or someone that. So it's about the character of the individuals on this team, and I'm just so proud of how they've all stepped up. I mean, I could go down a list a mile long of people that have gone through. Lexi Jeffrey being one of them. If there was ever a kid who could have quit, there was a lot of stuff that she absorbed in her transfer here that was tough. It was tough for all of us, and she didn't quit. And her teammates love her, and that's what matters internally. Her teammates love her, every single one of them, and she's doing it for them. Just like I tell you, they say that.
How's KJ's health? Will we see more, less of her this?
It's healed enough. Obviously, we got that surprise Wednesday before we left to go to regionals. Jenny came out in the gym and goes, "Hey, the doc looked at it and it's healed enough that he feels comfortable. She wants to try to go over the table a couple of times." At that point, we didn't have any designs on competing her. In fact, I may have told y'all earlier in the week we won't get her back because we didn't. That was the information I had at the time. And she went over the table a couple of times, said it felt good, so we moved to the middle table. She did a couple of fulls, felt good. We didn't do any more. So we got out there on the first day in warm-ups and just let her warm up. Bryce still competed, but let her warm up, and KJ looked really, really good. And so on the second day, Garrett's like, we sat down with Jenny and they said, no, she's had no residual effects on the break. And it wasn't fully healed at the time, but it was healed enough that they were okay with it. The main thing for her is that the ankle was still weak and stiff because of the sprain that went with the break. So she's good on vault. We know that we have her there right now. We're close to being ready on floor. That doesn't necessarily mean she'll be in, but we've done rod floor routines twice in the last week. And she has not hit the spring floor. We're going to try that today. But there's a risk reward involved in doing that. If we push too hard and she re-breaks that thing, now we don't have the vault. So any sign of pain, we're not going to push through. We're going to go real conservative on that.
So beam would be a no-go?
Yeah, she hadn't been on the beam yet, and the beam sort of hurts the foot a little more. Or to me, it's because of the corners of the beam. If she lands a little bit on that corner and her foot sort of kind of wraps around that corner, it pulls on that. And we've got it taped up real tight, and I don't think that's going to be. That's not going to be an option for us this year. I wish it was, because she was really beginning to come on balance beam.
Sierra went down to a two-pass routine for regional finals. Is that going to continue into nationals?
I think right now, it's a lot about how her ankle feels. And we've been nursing that most of the year. But competing 2 days in a row was harder, or not 2 days in a row, but 2 days in a weekend was harder on her ankle. And we've done very little with her since we got home, just trying to give her time to recover. The routine that she did on Saturday in here was a two-pass. So she had to switch her leaps up in order to get the credit. So, just trying to be smart at the end. Maybe I'm sure people would say that I wasn't smart to do three-pass routines anyway, but we've talked about that. But just trying to read, where their bodies are. And we always had a plan B if we needed to go back to two-pass routines. And so, and in some cases it may hurt their score, but in others it probably won't.
Haley also doing a two-pass routine. Is that going to stay?
I think so. I just think it's in her best interest right now. We've had to go pretty hard with her all year. I mean, she's done the all-around every single week, so, yeah. And same with Aaliyah.
Can you help us understand the four judges scoring? How does that change things?
So nationals, there'll be 6. Yeah, so at regionals there's 4, and they throw the high and the low out and average the middle 2. Same thing will happen here is there's 6, so you're going to get weird scores. Instead of 9.85 or 9.875, you might get something in between. You might get a 9.862 something, because what happens is they throw the high and the low and they average the middle 4. And when you're averaging 4, you don't get those even sort of denominators as we go. So the scores will look different, but ESPN does a good job on the screens of kind of showing the tally as it goes, and really shouldn't change too much. But that's something we went to, I don't know how many years ago now, because there's still talk, and we always have talk of lack of separation of scores between, this vault or that vault or whatever. And so one of the ideas was to go with 6 judges instead of 4. And that way, hopefully you get a little more spacing between, and then just average the middle 4. And that I think it's helped, but I mean, last year you had a championship won by, I don't know, something .02 something. I mean, it was tight. Like these championships are all, at this stage of the game, the separation is decided by one move of a foot, and or one handstand that's a little bit short. Handstands and landings are what wins from here on out. Period. The end. Because everybody's good. Everybody's got the interior, the meat and potatoes of their gymnastics is good. It comes down to who lands the best, who gets on top of the bars the best, and really, if you get these championships decided by a half-tenth, that's literally one movement of one person's foot that can make the difference in winning and losing.